Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is create our project directory. I'm just going to call mine mini LRS. So let's create that, and then let's open it with Visual Studio Code. You can just go to File, Open Folder, and find your directory. Okay, so we're now in this project, and we can just get rid of this, close this welcome tab. Okay, next thing is I want to get some terminals open. You can just click on New Terminal here if you like to, but I like to use the Control-Shift backtick shortcut. Also, I like to have about 3 terminals open. The reason is I like to have my front-end code running in this terminal, my back-end code running in this terminal, and then I like to have another terminal for installing things and pushing to GitHub, things like that. So let's start in the front-end terminal, and first thing we're going to want to do is get React. So let's go for npm create. I'm going to use Vite for this. You can put at latest, the latest version, and then you also need to name the directory that you want this to go into. So I'm just going to name mine client. Also make sure that you have Node installed, otherwise npm, this isn't going to work. Okay, so let's run that. And you're going to get these options like, what do you want to use? We want to use React. We want to use TypeScript plus Speedy Web Compiler. And it's basically telling us what we need to do here. First, we need to go into this client directory. If we have a look, first of all, it's made a whole bunch of code for us here. It's made like a little React project. But let's first go into that, because right now we're just in the root of the project. We're in mini LRS. Let's go into client. Also, if you don't want to type out the whole thing with client, you can just sort of start to type it and then hit tab and it should find it. So now we're in client. We need to run npm install. The reason for this is if you look in your package.json, you have like a whole bunch of dependencies here that need to be installed. So you can just run, just npm I is okay actually. So let's run that. And once that's all installed, we actually have this npm run dev command, because if you look in scripts, we have dev, it's going to run Vite here. So let's run npm run dev. And there we go. Now we have it running in our browser. If you hold command and then click on this. Oh, that's opened in another window. I'm just going to bring that over. Here we go. This is what the sort of boilerplate Vite React app looks like. Great. And what you're seeing here is actually coming from this app.tsx here, which is being rendered by main. So let's actually let's change this. We actually don't want this. So if you just go with Command A, get rid of everything. I'm just going to start a new, let's just call it app like this. As you can see, I'm using GitHub Copilot, so it will actually suggest things to me, which is quite useful sometimes. Like there, that was quite useful. That was actually exactly what I wanted to do. Let's see what that's done. Nothing, which is because, yes, so the way that we are now exporting this is now a function within the file. So the way you need to import it is different. You need to wrap the curly braces around it. And that should be okay. There we go. As you can see, there's already some styles applied to this page. This H1 is right in the middle here, and it's got a few styles applied to it. This is coming from, it's actually not coming from app CSS. We can actually just delete that right now. Those styles are coming from index.css, which is being imported in main here before app is rendered. So we can just get rid of all those styles. But I do want to keep this folder because, well, I do want some styles. I want to apply some styles to the body. Yeah, something like that. But actually, I'm going to change this background color because I actually really like having dark mode on everything. So also, let's go to Tailwind colors. I say also. I always like to get my colors from by the way, you can use Tailwind for this project if you want to. I'm actually not going to use Tailwind, but I do use Tailwind for other projects, and I do like to get my colors from Tailwind because they just have a really great color system. I'm going to go for Slate 700. So let's pop that in for the background color. And also, you wouldn't be able to see the text with this new dark mode, so let's just change the color of all the text. See how that looks. There we go. We've got like a nice dark mode going on now. Also, I want to use a different font. I mean, Roboto is fine, but sometimes I like to use a font called, if you go to Google Fonts, you can get a whole bunch of fonts from here. I like to use this font called Poppins sometimes. So just go to Get Font, go to Get Embed Code, and if you go to the import option, you can actually see exactly what you need to import, like to use this in a CSS file. So just copy that, and that needs to go at the top, and then you should be able to just type in Poppins, and that should be working. Lovely, using the Poppins font. Okay, there's a few other things we should just get rid of now. Like, we're not using this SVG anymore. That was one of the things you saw on that page at the beginning, including this React SVG here. Everything else is fine. Good, yeah, that's a good start. Oh, one more thing. We should probably, we have this like title here. We should probably change that. So if you go to the index.html, that's actually there. Let's just call this mini LRS, like that. There we go. Okay, that's a good start. So in the next section, what we'll do is we'll actually get our server running with Express, and we'll run that in this terminal here. Before we continue, we should actually just push all of this to GitHub. It'll just be nice to see like the different commits at each stage. I will share the repo in the description of this video. Let's go to, you'll need to go to your GitHub account, go to your repositories, and just click on new. I will call mine that mini LRS tutorial. You can add a description if you want to. You can add a README. I'm probably going to do things like that later. And also, I'm going to have mine on private just while this tutorial. Later on, when the video is published, I'll change to public. So, create repository, and then you have these nice like instructions here. So first thing we need to do is we need to initialize the repository. Make sure you are in the root of the project. You don't want to be in client like here. You want to be in this terminal using the root. So let's go for git init. Next thing we need to do is commit everything. So if you look in your source control tab, we have like these 13 new files that we've created, and you can stage those by just clicking this plus button here. So these changes are now staged. Let's give it a nice message, something like init client, and then commit. Then we need to tell it what the remote origin is. So we just take that, paste that one, and now we should be able to just push using this. Wait, are we on main? Yeah, main. Okay, so just git push minus u standing for upstream origin main. Push that. There we go. That should all be on GitHub. So if we go back to go to your repositories, have a look. There it is. So far we just got this one client directory, and as you can see, when we ran the v command, we have this like readme, there's all these things here. Okay, good. So it's just good to have that there so we can see each commit. Okay, so in this section, we are going to start building the backend code using this terminal. We're going to run the server in this terminal. We're going to build the server with Express. So we don't actually need these front end files anymore. If you just hit hold command, and then hit KW, that will just get rid of all your files. Also, another really useful thing is this button here will just collapse anything that you have open here. Okay, so first thing we need is a backend directory. So let's go to new folder, and I usually just call this API. And you will notice that actually we don't have a package.json in the root. We do have a package.json in the client directory, but we will need one in the root as well. So make sure you're in the root, and then go to type, what is it, npm init-y, and that will initialize a new package.json for us. And we're also going to need the express package to create the server. So go for npm I express, and now we have express as a dependency. Okay, this is a problem. This is because basically we don't have a .gitignore file in the root here. We do actually have a .gitignore. It was when we ran that beat command, we got it here. All you need to do is just drag this into the root, and then it will ignore the correct file changes. Good. So in the API directory, let's create a new file. I'm actually just going to do this in JavaScript. So just create a new file called index.js, and we need to import Express. So import Express from Express like that. We need to do that. Initialize the app. Not that. We're going to listen to yes, 3000. Yes. And we're missing a bracket there. Now this is why I actually really like GitHub Copilot, because that just saved me a lot of time actually typing that out. So basically, when we run this server in the terminal, we are going to see this. We're going to see this logged out. So let's try it in our. Oh, by the way, also just to make things neat here, you can run this clear command. I just like to do that every now and again. Okay, so in our backend terminal, let's run node API / index.js, and okay, let's know. What's this? ES module. Oh, okay, we don't have the correct type in the package.json. If you look in our client, in our package.json, we've said the type should be module. Basically, we just need the same thing in our root package.json. So if we add that, and then now let's run that command again. There we go. Now we can see what we've logged. Server is running on port 3000. But actually, to actually say the port number isn't actually very good. Isn't considered like best practice. What you should do is create a .env file, and you can store certain things in here. So if I just say port 3000 in the env file, then I can just use it here. Wait, how do we want to do this? We're actually going to use it twice, so let's create a variable. Cool. Let's create a variable called port equals what is it? Yeah, there it was. env. There we go. Yeah, that's what we want. We don't want to import anything though. What's happened here? Hang on. What have I done? I think it's actually process.env. Yeah. Okay. So this will get that variable from the .env, and if you can't find it, then it'll just use 3000 as a default. And now what we can do is we can just use that here, and we can use it here. We will actually have to use like the backticks here so that we can use the variable. So just do, oh, $sign, $sign. There we go. And that should work the same. If I just Control C out of that and then run it again. Yeah, it is working. I didn't actually expect this to work because, well, let me just check something. If I do this, 3000. Okay, so what's happening here is it's just defaulting to 3000. It's not actually getting this from here, and the reason is you actually need, in order to use variables, environment variables from your .env file, you actually need to import another package called .env. So just run npm i.env, and then to initialize that is actually, what is it? I can't remember. .env. .env. I just saw it. Oh my god, what's going on? .env. .config, like that. So we just need to initialize it there. And now if we were to run that again, oh, I just installed it twice. Okay, I didn't mean to do that. I meant run this one, node API index.js. What's happened here? .env is not defined. Oh, I haven't imported it. You need to import .env at the top first before you initialize it. Okay, now if I run it now, okay, there we go. 3001, which is exactly what we had here, but we're just going to use 3000 for this. So if I stop that again, run it again, there we go, 3000, it's working. Okay, but as you've noticed, actually, I had to keep, like, every time I made a change, I had to keep stopping the server and then running it again, which can be really time consuming. So we actually have another package that we can use. This one is called, oh, what's it called? NodeMon. So just go to npm i NodeMon. And we need to import that as well. NodeMon. Yep. And basically now, if we go to the package.json and we go to the scripts, if we were to create a new script called dev, for example, we could run NodeMon API index.js. So instead of running node API index.js, we could just run npm run dev like we do in the front end, and it will run this NodeMon API index.js. And what that will do is every time we save a backend file, we'll be able to see this. This will run again, and we'll be able to see this logging out again. Let's try it. Npm run dev, and there it is. So if I was to now make some kind of change, like I don't know, put some exclamation marks in here and then save, then there we go. You can see your changes like straight away. However, when we deploy this later, we're going to deploy this with render. Render will actually look in scripts, and it will look for a script called start. So for that one, you actually want to have, yes, you want to have that. You want to have what you originally had. You don't want to use NodeMon. NodeMon is like a dev dependency. So this will actually be for production in render. Oops. Okay, what else? We actually don't need to import NodeMon here. Before we push this up to GitHub, I just want to do a quick test to this port. But I actually think I have something already running on 3000, so I'm just going to change this quickly to let's try 3005 instead. So that is going to go to like localhost 3005. Okay, so we need to actually send some kind of response here. So let's go app.get. Yeah, that's basically what I want. And then in here, yeah, okay, good. Let's say something like, yeah, hello world with some exclamation marks. Let's see if on a Mac, if you just hit Command R, then it will refresh the page. So now we can see our response. Yeah, I just like to do a quick test just to check that everything is working with the API side. And one more thing, before we push this to GitHub, you really shouldn't push your .env file to GitHub. Reason is you can have like your secrets. Later on when we connect to the database, we're actually gonna have like passwords in our .env file. So you really shouldn't push this. So in the git ignore, you just need to add, not in tract, hang on, git ignore, just add like an extra file that it should ignore, and then as you can see that disappeared. So we can push all this. So let's stage that, and let's say init server, and let's we could hit commit, and then we could hit we could go down here and say git push again. But actually we also have this commit and push button. So you know, now that it knows where to push, we might as well just use this. So commit and push, and if we have a look here on GitHub, now we have our new changes. Okay, good. So in the next section, what I'm going to do is we're going to go back to the front end code, and we're going to like create some pages, and we're going to create a header. I'm going to show you like how I'm going to style the front end. I'm not going to be using Tailwind as I mentioned earlier. We're actually going to be using a package called styled components. So yeah, join me in the next section, and we'll jump into the front end. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the front end. Remember, you can hit Command KW just to get rid of those files and collapse all of this. Oh, and also I like to just run a clear there. So let's go into client, and what we're going to do is we're going to create some pages. Remember, we have this running up here, the front end code, the app. Okay, so in SRC, let's create a folder called pages. I think we'll start with just 2 pages for this project, and then later on you can add your own stuff if you want to. So let's start with, we're going to have a statements page, and we're also going to have a learners page. So the statements page is it's going to show all of the activity that has been sent to the LRS. For example, this person completed this course, this module, things like that. And the learners page, it can be a page to show like who all the learners are who are sending in this activity. So let's create an index.tsx, and we can actually let's just copy like what we did for the main app page. Let's just copy that code, and if you highlight something and then press Command D, it will find other occurrences of that thing. So that's a nice like multi-cursor thing you can do. Let's change this to statements, and let's do the same thing for the learners page. New file, index.tsx, and same thing, learners. Okay, and what we want to do is we're actually going to want to use something called React Router DOM for this, so that we can sort of go between different pages, like what page shows up when you're just in the root of the project, and then what page shows up if you have like, if you go to a learners page. At the moment, like everything's just showing app. So let's install React Router DOM first, and for that we need to change this terminal so that we're in the client terminal, because we want to install this just in the client terminal. Client terminal, I mean in the client directory, not terminal. Okay, so npm, let's install React. I think it's just React Router DOM, like that. Yeah, okay. So if we have a look in our package.json, we now have that. Yes, okay. So if we go to app here, there are some things we are going to want from here. So for example, we're going to want browser router, we're going to want routes, and we're going to want root as well. These are all things that come from the React Router DOM package. So first of all, let's replace this div with the browser router, and let's replace this h1 with the routes, and let's set up our first route. Oh, actually, yes. Perfect. This is why I love GitHub Copilot, actually, because it does exactly what I was going to do. So we've got a route, and actually we're going to change the path for the statements page. I want this to be like the first thing you see when you land in the app, just like this. So for this path, it's just going to be, you know, the root path. We need to import statements from this page that we just created here. And then for learners, it's going to be at learners. So if we import that as well, let's have a look. Okay, good. So now we're at the root of our app, and we can see this statements, well, you know, component here, and it's showing this. And so in theory, if we put learners into the path here, we should see the learners component, which we do. That's good. All right. So yeah. So those are the pages. In the next section. Oh, actually, before we move on to the next section, I am actually going to use some styles here. As I mentioned earlier, we're not going to be using Tailwind for this project. We're going to be using something called styled components. So let's install that. npm I styled components, like styled components. Yep. And what I want to do actually is create in src, in source, I want to create a folder just called styled, and create a new file. This can just be index.ts because there'll just be some styled components here. We don't need tsx. So let's import styled from styled components, like that. And what we can do here is we can actually make, here we go, GitHub Copilot is showing exactly how we're going to do this kind of thing. We can make some like style components using styled. So for example, let's say I want to make, let's say, you know, I want learners to be in the middle, and I also want statements to be in the middle. I can make a component called, what should we call it? Heading container, I guess. Export const heading container. Yep, style div. Actually, I'm not going to use the backticks. I'm going to use that. And then we can have some styles like. Actually, I don't want all of these. What's that? Okay, if we have, if we add flexbox to this, we display flex and justify content to put everything in the center. We can now use this component, and for example, we can wrap it around. We can wrap it around this h1 like this. We have to import that from styled, and now if we look, what's happened is it's in the middle. But if we go back to our learners page, obviously we're not using it there, so that's the good thing about style components, is we can reuse the same styles. So if I put that, using it there as well, then there we go. Now they're in the middle. And also they can have some extra styles. I mean, what do we want? We can give it some padding. Yeah, 1 rem is fine. Let's just push it down a little bit. So this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using style components. We can actually do the same thing for like this h1. Actually, let's create export const something like heading. Yep, an h1. For example, we could just you know, an h1 comes with its own margin and padding. I think so. We could just add so that it has like no margin or padding anymore. Let's use that for both of them. And also, this is just going to be easier later on when we're reading through this file. It's just nice not to have like loads of CSS in the file. It'll just be easier to read through it. So heading. Probably haven't noticed that, but basically it removed all the margin and padding from this h1 element. Okay, so that's style components. And yeah, so in the next section, what we'll do is we will create a header, because yeah, we should have like a header up here, and we should be able to click on which page we want to go to. So yeah, that's the next section. In this section, we are going to create a header so that we can navigate between different pages in the UI. Before we do that, though, I've just realized I didn't commit my changes. So let's just stage those and call it something like create pages and commit that. And we can just leave that there for now. We can push that later with the next push. Okay, so let's create a header, and for this we need to create a new folder called components. Oh, if I could spell it, components, because we're going to want to use this header component. We're going to want to use it at the where's it gone? Here we go. We're going to want to use have this component just like at the top of basically every single page that we go in. So let's create, we can just create it like this, like header.tsx, and again, just like we did earlier, export. Let's call this something like, well, we'll call it header. Yep, that'll do. That'll do for now. So now we've got that header component there. We need to go into app.tsx, and right now what we've got is like these pages, but we want this header to show on every single page, so we need to put it about here. Let's have a look at that. There we go. There's header, and if we go to a different page, it's still there. Good. So but of course, this isn't actually what we want here. We want it's going to be something else. It's going to be a header. Now I know we already have a styled folder here in source, but that is because we're using it for like both of these pages. So actually, I could have put it in the pages directory actually. But anyway, there's that styled directory there. We can just create another styled directory that's more like specific to just like header related styles. So we can just call this index.ts. And again, if you remember, we need to import styled from style components. And let's start with almost header container. And what do we want? Do we want those things? Not really. I mean, yeah, we do want display flex. Okay, sometimes GitHub Copilot can be a little bit frustrating. Okay, display flex. What else do we want? We'll start with that for now, and then we can add things like later on. So let's have that as our container. We're gonna want to see like the name of the app here. So let's create. Hang on, one moment. This is something I like to do every now and again. Is just close everything and start again. Otherwise, it can just get a little bit confusing. We need something called, let's say, app name, and that's going to be an H1. Yep, that's fine. And again, remember it comes with like margin and padding, so let's just remove those. Not quite 0. So let's use this for this and import it. And our app name is going to be, let's do it like this, mini LRS. So there we go. So we've got our app name over here. Oh, I know something we could add to the container. Let's add something like border bottom 1px solid height, just to show that, you know, this is the header section here. So we've got our app name here, and over here we want to have like our different pages so that we can go from like learners to statements. So let's create some like navigation items. So let me think about this. They will need to go in their own container, yeah. So let's have, what can we call this? List item container, maybe? List item container is probably fine. But we don't want it to be a div, we want it to be like an unordered list. And let's say, for now, yeah, we want display flex. Let's just have flex in there. So we will want this container to be like, what's going on here? Okay, we will want this container to sort of wrap around, yeah, basically like what they're suggesting here. Yeah, this is the kind of thing we want. But we haven't created any list items yet, so let's create some list items. Yep. Oh, hang on, where's he gone? Yes, that's good. We want a list item like that. And, well, for now, let's just have that. We use that and say something like, oh right, I need to import these. That's why we've got the red squigglies underneath. If I just say something like, I don't know, let's say statements, and then have another one for learners. Because it's a list item, it comes with this like little bullet point, which we don't want. So, hello. If we go to our styles, what's going on? There we go. If we go to our styles, we can just say, I think it's oh, my mouse is playing up. If we go to our list item here, we can say what is it? List style, I think, or something. List style none. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Now they're gone. The reason I put these list items into their own container is because I actually want to like separate like the app name and then the like the navigation items. I want these to be over here, and so in order to do that, we can go to our heading container and we can say justify content. Yeah, good. Space between, and it will push them over here. And then because this because list item container has flex, right? It does. We can give it something like a gap of, actually let's say like 2 rem, just to space them apart. And also let's give this whole like header container. Let's give it like some padding. Let's give it like 1 rem on the y-axis and then like 10 rem for the x-axis, just to like squeeze it in like this. Also, I don't know if you can see this, but it's not quite right. Like this mini LRS here isn't quite in the middle, whereas I think these are, and that is because we need to have a line item center. Exactly. Thank you, GitHub Copilot. And now it's directly in the middle. Good. Okay, so that's basically what it's going to look like. But what we want it to do now is we want it to actually do something. Like when we click on these things, including this, we want it to actually go to the correct route. So when we click on learners, we want it to go to here, for example. So in order to do that, we can use a component from React Router DOM called link. Also, notice these lines start to get quite long, these import lines. If you click your cursor here and then hold Option, click again, click again, click again, click again, hit Enter. That's just a nice quick way to I just think it looks nicer when you have imports like this. It's just easier to read. It's not good to have a line that's too long. And in fact, in some projects you'll be sort of you won't be able to have it too long. They'll have like a max line length in their linting. Okay, so let's import the link component from React Router DOM. And what we want to do is, do we want to wrap it around the whole thing? Let's have a look. If I just copy that, stick it in here. I think this is how we do it. If I just wrap it around this list item. Oh, sorry, not list. This is link. This has a prop called to, and that will say like you know, like which path you want to go to. So for statements, remember we want to go to we want to just go to the like the root. Whereas for learners, it would be different. It would be like, sorry, excuse the way I'm doing this. This isn't the best way to do it, but it would be like learners like this. So that should work just by wrapping it with this special component. That should be working now. Let's have a look. If I, okay. Yes, it's come with some default styles. We will need to make, let's say, export const, let's say styled link. Would it be? No. Okay, what we need to do is we need to say styled and then wrap link here. So actually, we need to get rid of this and put it in this import instead. And then we can use this styled link component here instead of these and import those. The reason we are seeing this, I think, is text decoration. Let's have a look. If I put in here text decoration none. No. I mean, yes and no. What was it? Is it just color? Color white? Okay, that looks better. What happens if I get rid of text decoration then? Oh, okay, so text decoration has like the underline. Okay, so we need both. And as you can see, now it's working. It's still working. If I go to statements, it goes to this route. If I go to learners, it goes to this route. Also, it'd be good when we're on learners, it'd be good if we could like click here and go to the home page. So let's also wrap this. Something really wrong with my mouse today. Let's also wrap this around the. In fact, the same thing here. Again, this isn't the best way to do this. But anyway, let's try that. If we're on the learners page and then we click here. Oh, my mouse is completely broken. Wow. What a fantastic time for my mouse to break. What is going on? Okay, so if we're on the learners page here and then we click here on the app name, it will just go back to the statements page. So yeah, that's quite useful thing to have. My mouse is really playing up, so I'm actually going to need to go and change my mouse. But anyway, we can finish this section here anyway. That's basically all I wanted to do, was have this header. We basically finished everything. So let's stage those changes, and let's say create header component and commit. And then now, as you can see, we've got two things that we've committed. So down here, let's just say git push, and that's now gone to, if we give this a refresh, should be on GitHub. So if we're looking client, looking source, now we have this header component. Okay, good. So I'm just going to clear that terminal. I'm just going to change my mouse, and then in the next section, what we're going to do is actually we're going to jump onto the back end, and we can start. We'll actually start by connecting to the database, and then after that, we'll start like writing out the APIs and whatnot. Okay, so I am back and I've got a new mouse, and let's move on to the next part, which is, I don't know how that happened, which is this, which is connected to a database is what we're going to do next. So remember, first of all, you can do Command KW to just close all the files you had open. You can click this button to collapse the file tree. Let's go into API and let's just remember what we were doing last time. I think we were just sending this test, which is, okay, yes, here. Yeah, so this is on port 3005, we were just testing it. So now what we want to do is we want to create a database, and we're going to create that with MongoDB. And in order to interact with the data in MongoDB, we actually need another package called Mongoose. Now remember, in the terminal I use for installing things, notice that we're actually in client at the moment. We actually don't want to be in client, we want to be in the root of the project, so you can just do cd ... to go back one into the correct directory. And then let's install Mongoose with npm I Mongoose. There it is. And what we need to do first is we need to import it. So Mongoose from Mongoose, and we're going to use a method from Mongoose called connect method, which is we're going to tell we're basically going to say exactly like where the database is here. For now, I'm just going to comment that out, otherwise it's going to cause some problems. Right, let's go and create a database. If you don't have a MongoDB account, you need to sign up. I already have mine open here in a different window, so let's pull that in. So if you go to your, should be able to just go to Atlas to refresh everything. This is actually not where I want to be. Why did I do that? I really wish I hadn't clicked that. Okay, we can just create a project like this. First of all, you want to create a project. Let's call our project, I'm just going to call this, wait, what did I call it? Oh yeah, mini LRS tutorial. I'll call it that, because I think I already have mini LRS in here. So let's say mini LRS tutorial, and then go on next. And we don't need to invite anyone else, just me. So let's create the project. bit slow. Okay, that's creating, and okay, and so now if we go to database, we can click on build a database. That's what we want to do. So for this, just because this is like a little practice project, you should just go with the M0, which is the free tier. We should give it a name. I'm going to call it again mini LRS tutorial using AWS. Select your region. This happens to be the closest region to where I am, and I think that's all we need to do for now. Let's create the deployment, and then it will basically ask you for like a database user. For this, I'm just going to put like, I don't know, John, and for the password, I'm also going to put John. Create database user. Just ignore that for now. Okay, and then we can go on choose a connection method, and you want to go to drivers. And what you're looking for basically is you're just looking for this this string, and this is what we want to use. So you can press here to copy it. This is what we want to use in this connect method here. We want to pass this in like that. Now the problem is as you can see here, we've got like the name and the password. It's really not good to push that sort of thing to GitHub. So if you remember earlier, we created this .env file. In here we could create something called, create another environment variable called Mongo path, and let's instead just paste that there instead, because remember, this won't be pushed to GitHub. So instead of doing that, remember we can do process, not in capitals, but process m.mongo path. All right. Okay, good. So that should be working. So now nobody can see your username and password. It's like hidden here. Okay. What we want to do is, once we actually want some feedback to say, like, you know, are we connected to the database or not? Like, was it successful or not? So what we can do is we can actually then like chain another method, then method, and let's just console log something. Yeah, good, like that, like console.log connected to MongoDB. And if for some reason something goes wrong, we can actually chain another like catch method here, and we can say, what have I done wrong? Oh, okay, is it this? Yeah, okay. In fact, yeah, no, that's fine like that. And then it will console.log the error if it's not connected. So as you can see here, it's connected. We're seeing this in NodeMon. So that's just to give us some feedback that we know we're connected to the database. If something went wrong, we would see this error in the terminal instead. Okay, so yeah, that was it. We're now connected to a database, and the next thing we can do, oh, let's push this first. Just going to stage those changes, and let's say connect to database, connect to Mongo, and commit, and git push. And that's, if we go to here, just going to show you a different way of looking at this. You can actually just like have a look at the commits. So now it says 5 commits, and we can see our latest commit is connect to Mongo. If I click on that, then we can see like exactly what we did. It's just another way of, it's actually a much better way of looking at this. Okay, so in the next section, what I'm going to do is we're going to create our first model, and then we're going to create routes and controllers, and yeah, we're just going to create like the APIs for creating statements, fetching statements, and all of that jazz. So see you in the next section. In this section, we are going to create our first model, and this model will be created with Mongoose, and it will be the way that we are able to interact with the database. So in our database, it will be a collection in our database. So let's create a new directory called models, and in there we can put this will be just the statement model. So statement.js. Yeah, okay. First thing we need to do is import Mongoose. And then what we can do is, yep, GitHub Copilot already knows it. In fact, yes, that's exactly what I want. We're going to have something called statement schema. We're going to create a new, using Mongoose, we're going to create a new schema. And this is where we can basically say like what our model should look like. Now, first of all, in order to know what a statement, what a learning statement, well, an XAPI statement, like what it should look like, let me just open like a new file just to show you like what it might look like. First of all, it's going to be it's going to be a JSON object. The simplest form of an XAPI statement just has three parts. It has an actor, of course. Oh yeah. Okay, that's interesting. But no thanks. It's going to have a verb, and it's going to have an object. Okay. Okay. What's happened? Okay. So the point of this is, like the actor is going to be like a person, like Johnny, and the verb will be like, what did that person do? Or they completed something, and the object will be like the thing that they completed. So imagine I'm someone on an LMS, learning management system, which is where the learning part will take place. Let's say I open a new course. The statement that will be sent to our side, to the learning record store, would be like Johnny launched module 1. And then when I complete that module, then it would send another statement, Johnny completed module 1, something like that. So this is what this is what will be sent to the learning record store. It'll be something like, I don't know, can't actually remember exactly what it's going to look like, but like name, something like this, like Johnny. The verb will be more like an ID. Oh, hello. What was that? Yeah, kind of. Yeah, okay, fine. Answered. And then also there'll be like a verb in here as well. Yeah, okay, cool. So Johnny answered question, let's say, I don't know, question 1. The reason we have these IDs, by the way, the reason it's not just like, verb, name, or something, is because, it could be ambiguous. We actually have to have a place where, what do you mean by answered? We actually need like an ID of this exact verb that we're using in the XAPI statement. But anyway, that's like the most basic form. It will have like a bunch of other stuff. It'll be a really like big JSON object, a real XAPI statement. But this is the most basic part of it. It's actor, verb, object. So to actually, we don't want to save this. Let's not save that. So to start off, let's just have those three things in our schema, because we've got to tell MongoDB exactly what types of things should be in this collection. So yep, that looks good. We've got an actor. It's not going to be a string, it's going to be an object. As you saw in the file that I just showed you, it was like actor and then the value was an object. And actually this is going to be true for all three of them. For the verb, it's also an object, and for the object, it's also an object. So that'll do for now. That can be our schema. Another thing that we can add to these schemas, though, like when we create a document and we send it to the database, at the moment it will just show like the actor, the verb, the object. but it'd be good if we also had some extra information about it, like exactly when was it created, when was it updated. So you can do this by just adding this, exactly that, timestamps true. If you add that, then when it creates, when we actually send it, once we built the controllers and the routes, when we've actually sent the document into the database, it will have 2 extra fields, which will be like created at, literally look like that, created at, and it'll have like a date string, and there'll be an updated at as well. So that's really useful. Why is that here? Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to actually create the model, and that looks perfect. Yeah, we've created the model using Mongoose model method. We're giving it a name, we're calling it statement. This is the statement model, and we're passing in the schema. And then one more thing, we just need to export it like that. I'm just going to export this as a default statement for this one. Okay, so that's it. That's our first model. You won't actually see it yet, but if we go into MongoDB, make sure you're in your, in the database that you just created. And if you go to like browse collections, we probably won't see anything yet. Yeah, I don't really have anything yet, but basically at some point what you will see in mini, what is this? I think they just put this here to show what this would look like. Later on, when we actually start sending things into the database, we'll have a collection here that will be called statement. It would be named statement, and then we'll start to see all the documents being passed in. So let's add this to GitHub. Let's say create statement model, and remember you can always just say commit and push, and that should be up on, if we give this a refresh, there it is. There's our next commit. So now all we need to do is create the routes, create the controllers, and then we can actually send something into the database, and we'll actually be able to see it here in our collections. So see you in the next part. Okay, so in this section, just going to get like set up with some routes and some controllers, and also like I'm going to show you how you can test your APIs. So if you remember here, we actually already have this. We have this sort of test here, which we should still have open. Yep, sending hello world as a response from the server. We're going to do something like this just as a test, just to get everything set up. But the way we usually do this is actually to have a different folder called controllers. In controllers, we can create, let's say, statement. Yeah, we just say statement. Okay, and then we can just create that. We can just basically create like a similar kind of function. We don't want to mention the root in the controllers section, and we don't want to say like what kind of HTTP request it is. We just want the actual function. So let's just call this statement test. Yep, that looks right. Usually these because we're going to be interacting with the database, usually we have these like async await functions for these controller functions. So let's say something else like let's just say statement. Okay, let's just say statement test. That'll be fine. So we export the function there, and then when we want to say like exactly which route it's going to, we do that in a different directory called routes. So in routes we can create another statement.js, and in here we will actually need to use Express. we need to import Express. Oh, that's not right. There we go, that's the one. Import Express from Express because we're going to do this. We needed to use this router from Express. And we're going to use this instead of, like here, we were just calling this get request from app. Now we can actually use the same kind of thing, but from router. So if we say router.get, same kind of thing, and let's say the root, let's just say that root for now. Instead of saying like rec res, which we've already done in the controllers here, we can actually just import the test instead. Okay. So it's just, this is just like a better way of doing it. Instead of like having everything all in this one file, we like to separate different things. Now what we do need here though is we need to use use this router. So we can export the router just as a default like this, and then in here we can import it. Let's say, because it's like a default, we've done like a default export. We can actually call it whatever we want. So let's just call it statement router from there. And then we can use this. We can use this in app.use. Oh yeah, we will need to do that later. And then so what we can do here is we can, first of all, we can say the exact route. We can say the exact route that this is going to go to here. And yeah, thank you GitHub Copilot again. This is like the best way to do it, to actually have like API in the root, and then say like, this is this is where we want to post the statement. This is where we're going to post the statement, or this is where we're going to like fetch all of the statements from the statements collection. So it makes sense that it's like anything that's going from API statements, we should use this statement router. Good. So let's see if that is all set up correctly. We've got the controller function, which is being used here at just, whatever this route is going to be. The route is actually going to be API statements. All right, now one thing I want to show you how to do is to test this sort of thing using something called Postman. Like we can test our APIs. But first of all, if you remember from earlier, we did actually just test this in the browser. So let's see if we can just, now that we've got API statements, let's see if we can just use that exact route in the browser. And that is not working because everything's crashed. The import. Okay. This is something that has caught me out quite a few times before. When you import certain things in the backend here, you do actually need the extension. That can catch you out. Otherwise, it's still crashing. Maybe it's somewhere else, the same thing, this one. Aha, okay, now it looks like it's okay now. You do need to have the JS extension on a lot of these import statements. That can catch you up. So now if we go to the there we go, statement test. Now we're seeing the correct thing in the browser. Okay, but another way, when we test out our functions later, we won't just be having these get HTTP requests. We're also going to be having post requests, and maybe we'll even have some patch requests later. We'll have delete requests, and we need a better environment to actually be testing these APIs. So you can use something called Insomnia if you want, but I usually use this one called Postman. So yeah, if you don't have an account, you should sign up with an account on Postman and then get this on your desktop. I've created a new workspace called Build Stuff with John after the YouTube channel, and let's go to start a blank collection called, let's just call it, oh, can I name it? How do you name a collection? Rename, there we go. Let's just call this mini LRS tutorial. And then you're going to want to add, like, you can go to like add request here. And this is just like another place where we can test our APIs. So let's say we'll just call this one statement test. And let's use that exact same URL. And in fact, we should be able to just, yeah, there we go. So it's, you see, it's like another place where we can test it. But it's better to test it on here because we have different things like get, post, put, patch, things like this. There's lots we can do like authorization. In fact, for post requests, we do need it because we need the body. We need to actually send like JSON in here. Good. So make sure you have this set up. And in the next section, what we will do is we will go back into our controllers file, and this time it won't just be a test. We will actually create a post API to post our first statement into the database, and then we will see it in the collections here. In this section, let's create an actual post request. So we're in this controller. We're in this controller function here, the statement.js file. Let's keep this for now, but we're going to get rid of this later. But let's just keep it anyway for now. Let's create a new one called, we can call this create statement. Yep, like that. Again, it's async await. Let's go like this. And usually the way this is done is to use use a try catch for this. So if you just write try catch, then you can get this sort of shortcut and just hit enter. The first thing we want to do is we are going to because this is a post statement, we're going to have a request. So if we start building this here, be easy to understand it. Create statement. This is going to be a post request. It's going to be the same route as here, and we are actually going to send some JSON in like a request. You can click here, raw, and yeah, JSON is the one you want selected. So if you remember earlier, we had that sort of typical API, we had that XAPI statement that I showed you. It was like, you know, it was like actor, and then it was like name, Johnny, blah, blah. We're going to send this sort of thing in an actual request. So the first thing we want to do in this function is we want to get that, and we can access the request, and then we can access the body. So we can say, and let's save this as something called, like, let's call this our statement. Let's say, yeah, rec.body. That's the first thing we want to do, is we just want to get that statement from the body of the request. The next thing, I'm going to improve this function in a minute, but for now, let's just make like let's just do the bare minimum of what this function needs. The next thing I want to do is actually interact with the database. So let's save this in a variable called like saved statement is fine. And yes, that is what I want to do. This statement here, you want to import this from models. Remember earlier we created this model in here. You want to import statements, and then with Mongoose it will actually give you these kind of methods, like you can actually create like a new document in the database by passing in what you got from the body of the request. And the last thing we can do is just send that. So we can say, like we did earlier with our with our test, we like sent a response. We can do the same thing here, but let's send it as JSON. This is what we usually do. So when this has all worked and this has been added to the database, what we will see in our response when we test it in here, for this sort of response here, we will see like, you know, whatever we've sent in the request here in JSON format. And then if there's an error, we can send some kind of error message like this. So we can say like it's a 500. Oh yes, I forgot actually, we should use like a status. For this, usually we say like status, if it's something that's been created, it should be like status 201. So you should send the status code, and then you should send the JSON. And it's the same thing, like if there's an error, we'll say like there was an error, this error code, and then we're also going to send like whatever the message is that's caught in the try catch. Okay. All right, so next thing we need to, wait, why is this crashed? Oh, I think this is to do with the, is this the imports again? Yep, same thing. You need to remember to keep putting this .js on the end of things. Right, now we can now use this in this. Remember, in the same way that we're using this one, we put it into roots here. So let's create like another thing like this. Wait, hang on. Yeah, so we need to also be getting create statement from the same file. Remember, this is going to be a post. It's not going to be a get. It's going to be a post request. So we're going to have a post. The root is fine. We just want to post it at API statements. Because this is a different HTTP method, that will work. It's fine to have like the same root as long as it's like different HTTP methods going on. So let's get create statement imported, and everything else is already set up. We're using the statements router here, so now everything should be connected and we should be able to use this function. Let's send in you know, the correct data. What do we have? Oh, I wish I had that file from earlier. In fact, well, and anyway, for now, actually, it doesn't really matter. I'll just do some kind of like, I don't know, test ID 1, something like that. And let's do the same thing for the object. That'll do. Okay, let's try it. Let's hit send. We're going to send in this to the, and we should see this go into the database as well. Send. And statement validation failed. Object path object is required. Verb is required. Actor is required. Yes. We have actor, we have verb, we have object. The reason why we're seeing this error is because we've created the model here and we've said like actor is required, verb is required, object is required. What have I done wrong? Actor, verb, object. Okay, let me just check. We got API statements. It's the right part, root. It's the right. We got actor, verb, and object. Statement validation failed. The reason why we're seeing this error, by the way, is you know, we're getting like what we wrote here. Like we've got a 500 internal server error, and there's the error, and then it's passing in the error here. So this is why we use this try catch. I think because it's JSON. I think it's because it's JSON. The reason might be. I think I actually saw this earlier when I started to write this one. We actually saw it. There it is. It suggested like, do you want to use JSON? This is like middleware that we need to use. Hopefully that will work. Let's try it. Okay, there we go, and it worked. Yeah. So sometimes you just need to use this like middleware. But you can it can be like frustrating because you know, the error didn't really. We were looking at the error, but it was just like some error that we'd written and it didn't really make sense to the situation. Okay, good. So as you can see, what we got here was the was what we wrote in the controller. Here we sent the JSON of the save statement, and as you can see, it created those extra fields, created at and updated at, and gave the exact give us like a date string. Let's check the database to check that's in there. I think I need to just give this a refresh. I probably didn't need to refresh the whole thing. There's probably got like a refresh button over here somewhere. But there we go. We have this test. I can't remember where I named it test, but anyway, we have this collection called statements, and we have one document, and in that document we have name Johnny, verb, ID. We have all the information that we just sent. So that's good. So this is working. We can now like send documents into the database. So that's really good. But there are actually a few things I want to add to this controller function to just make it better. And actually, some of it's going to be to do with validation. Like in models here, as you can see, we have like we need to have these 3 fields. We can actually do like a test here. We can do some sort of like we can check that those we can check that it has those fields before we send it through. But for this, it's usually better to have this in like a utils directory. So let's create a utils directory. Let's create something like what do we want to do? We want to validate the statement. Validate the statement. And what we want to do is we want to check. So let's write a function called validate statement. Don't really need that parameter, just rec and res. Oh, too many curly braces. Let's say something like, okay, actually no, what am I doing? We don't want to send in rec and res. We just want to send in like the statement with this utils function. Let's like because what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it here. We're gonna call it here, and we're gonna send in this statement. Let's say if yes, this. So we're going to check. The statement's going to come in this function as a parameter, and we're going to say like, does it have an actor field? Does it have a verb field? Does it have an object field? If it doesn't have any of these things, we should just return false. But if it does have those 3 things, which it should, then we can return true. So just a nice little like utils function here that we can use just to validate the statement. Let's use that. Let's use it right here. Let's say we can use that in an if, in another if block. So let's say if validate statement, which we need to import, and then pass in the statement into that. And actually we can just say like, we can just use the bang here. We can just say like, if it's false, what do we want to do? We want to just return 400. Yeah, okay. Let me just, I actually want to check if you go to like HTTP cats, you can actually, here you can actually say like 400. What is it, 400? It's a bad request. 400 is a bad request. Yeah, good website this, HTTP cat. Okay, so there's a bad request. We're saying it's an invalid statement. That's our message, and then so that will just catch that there before it starts to interact with the database. Good. So that's a nice little utility function to use there. Also, we could have, as you've seen here, we've got like we're sending this error message. We're sending this error message. It might be nice to have another utils function that sort of like handles these errors. So let's create another one in utils called error handler. And error handler could be something like error handler. What we want is we want to send in like a status code, and we want to send in like some sort of message. Oh, and also actually we'll need to send in the response. And then we just say something like, in fact, if we're only going to do one thing in here, we can just do this. Yeah, we're going to do that exactly. We're going to send like res dot, everything we're doing here, like with status code, JSON. Instead of writing this out every single time, it's just nicer to have it like this. Res dot status, put the status code, and then in the JSON we can put the message here. So let's use that instead. That'll be much cleaner. In fact, I don't even think we need the return keyword for this. We can literally just call it error handler, pass in the response, pass in 400, pass in invalid statement. Yeah, much nicer like this, I think. And then we can use the same thing here. What was that? 500 error handler, response 500 with the error message as the message. Yeah, I think that'd be much nicer. So let's test this quickly. Like if I didn't have actor, for example, what this will do is it's gonna go into validate statement, and it's gonna see in validate statement that there's no actor here, so it's gonna return false. And then if that's false, then it's gonna hit this error handler util function, and it's gonna send all this information. So let's see how that looks. Oh, there we go. So what we see is like 400. So we got the status code, and then invalid statement. That's the exact message that we sent in. So cool. Let's get that back. Before I forget, let's actually add all these changes to GitHub now, because we've actually got quite a lot here. Let's stage that, and let's say, what do we do? What did we do? We created a statement. Create post statement API. Let's just say that. Commit and push, and we should have all of that on GitHub, which I've closed. Let's have a look. Remember, if you go to your repositories, let's have a look at this mini LRS tutorial, and we can just look in commits. There it is. This is what we've done. Added this new controller function, and good. We had to use this because we got that error. All right, everything's great. So in the next section, what are we going to do? Well, now that we have like documents in the database here, now what we can do in the next section is we could write like a fetch all statements function, because on the front end later on we are going to need this. We're going to need to see all the statements here on the front end. So we do need a fetch all statements controller function. So that'll be the next section. Okay, so this will be the last thing that we'll do in the back end, and after this we can jump onto the front end, and we can start updating some of getting the statements here in the statements list. Remember, for this create statement function that we created here, you have to imagine this is all happening on an LMS. It's not happening on the LRS. This is just where we receive it. So imagine someone has done a course somewhere else, and then this gets sent. It just gets sent, and then it's just is it? Oh, okay, there's a refresh button there. And then just suddenly we have it in our database, and all we do on the LRS side is we're just going to display it here. So for that we will need a fetch all statements request. But first of all, let's actually get rid of this one here. We don't need this anymore, this test. Where else am I using it? Here. Okay, let's create something called export const, let's say fetch. We can say get all. Let's say get all statements. Get all statements. Again, it's going to be like this. Rec res. How's that looking? Try catch const statement, await statement, find. Yeah, that's exactly what we need to do. So again, we're using this statement. Remember, we have this imported from our models, and we have another function here, just like we had create. This function here will just find all of the statements in the database, and then we are just going to send a 200. Let's have a. I just want to do this just because it's fun to see the different pictures. So 200 just means okay. We get an okay response, and then we send in like all the statements as JSON. So this will be like in Postman, we're going to see like an array of all of the documents that we have in the database. And if it doesn't work, then we will need to just send another like error message with the error handler. Why is this crashing? .js. Oh, I think, okay. Is it just because I just wasn't using that thing. It didn't recognize, like, because I was still trying to import it here, it didn't recognize it from this file. There was nothing in there because we deleted it. Okay, so let's go into there, and again, it's gonna be the same route. But this time, all we want to do is, it will be a get, and this time all we want to do is we want to just get all of the statements. From the same route is fine. Should work. Let's have a look. We could actually just rename this one, like, because it has all the same stuff. Get all statements. It's a get request. This is the route. Let's have a look. Send. And there we go. We've got the array. If I just drag this up a bit, it's an array, and there are two documents. There's Johnny and there's Johnny2, which is exactly what we have right here in the database. Good. So that works. Everything's fine. What about, like, do we need to do any checks like this? What if there are no documents in here? We should do some sort of check to see if there's like, if there are no documents, then maybe we just want to use like our error handler function and just say, hey, there's no documents. So let's do like another if block. Let's say, yeah. It always knows what I want to do. This is great. Yeah. Great. And let's have a look at a 404. Like, what exactly is a 404? Not found. This is the one that you always see on web pages across the web. Anyway, it's like the one that most people know, isn't it? And no statements found. This is our message. Good. So yeah. So if we didn't have any documents in here, then it would hit that. Good. I think that's the only check we need to do, actually. Yeah, that was nice and quick. So now that we have this get all statements controller function, as I said in the last section, now we can jump onto the front end in the next section, and we can start like listing out the statements here, because that's like the main feature of a learning record store is you can look at like the different statements depending on like which organization you're in. You can like query those different statements. So we just want to like list them out here. So that's what we'll do in the next section. Also, don't forget to commit your changes to GitHub. What have we done here? What did I say in the last commit? Create post statement API, create get all statements API. Commit and push, that will be up on GitHub now. Good, so see you in the next section. In this section, what we're going to do is we're going to jump onto the front end, and in the UI here we want to see like a list of all of our statements. So like everything that's in the database here, we want to just list it out in a nice way here. And remember that function we just created, get all statements, that will do it. That will like return this array. So as you can see, I've already closed most of the backend files, including this one. because now we just want to look at the front end file. So let's go into client, let's go to source, let's go to pages, statements page, index. And for now, remember, it's just a heading, it's just statements. What we want is, first of all, let's think. We're going to have like another container down here, which is going to hold all of the statements. So that means actually we need another container to go around all of those containers. So let's first of all remember we're doing this with style components. So if we go in here, let's make another container which we can call something like maybe statements page container. So let's get that first and give that display flex. Let's use this here, statements page container, import it, and what have we done? And then wrap it around and sort out the indentation. Okay, so here, this is what we're going to have. What could we call it? Statements list container. So let's create that. Export. In fact, let me just copy this. Let's just do statements list container, something like that. That's quicker. Let's use that here. Import it again. And okay, so in this statements list container, we are going to have like sort of imagine like these long list items here. In fact, wait, let me just check the styles a second. Like if I just put something in here, what's it going to look like? Ooh, okay, they're side by side. Yeah, first of all, we need to fix that. If we go to that statements page container, needs to have like flex direction column. That should sort it out. Yeah, good. Okay. And also, it would be good if this whole like statements page had like a similar padding to what we have in the header. I don't think we need to affect the y-axis, but let's change just the x-axis. So padding, let's say 0 on the y-axis, and I think it was something like, was it 10? I think it was something like 10 rem. Yeah, that looks right. Okay. So there's going to be like, remember in our response, we will have like actor, verb, object on each list item. So what we want to do is we want to have like a list item going across saying like Johnny completed module 1, for example. So there will be lots of different like list items in here. So let's first of all, actually, let's get the data first of all. I think that'd be the best way to do this, and then we can start playing with it and seeing how it looks like in this statements list container. Also, remember the imports start to look a bit strange in the end, so let's do this. Right. First of all, we need to think about. We need to store the statements in some kind of variable. So let's use use state first of all. Let's create statements variable, set statements, use state, import that. So statements is where this like array is going to live. We're going to update it when we call the API function, and we're going to store it in statements, and then we're going to put statements in here, and we're going to loop through and do some other bits and bobs with the style. Okay, so let's create a function, and we could actually just call this one fetch. Let's just call it fetch statements. It's going to be an async function. It's also going to have like a try catch. Just like we did, like, you know, quite similar to what we did on the back end. So let's put a try catch in. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to call this. If I go to our API controllers, I should have kept this open actually. We want to call this exact function, but we want to do it on the front end. So the way we do that is, first of all, let's create a variable called like response, or just res for short is fine. And let's just use there are many different ways to do this, but we could let's just do like I think it's the most like simple way to do this is just to use the this native fetch function. And for this we need to pass in the URL. So if we go to Postman and find our URL, localhost API statements, let's put that in here. And yeah, now that we've like done a fetch request on that, we also need to say, actually, you know, like if we're using fetch, we need to say like what kind of HTTP request this is. So for the second argument, you can open up some curly braces, and you can say this. You can say exactly this. You can say the method is get, and the content type is actually application JSON. Remember, we're going to be getting back some JSON. Oh, VS Code problems. Okay. Am I missing a bracket somewhere? No, I have that there. Where's this come from? I don't think I need this. Oh yeah, of course I do. That should be there. Ah, okay. No. What's going on here? I don't know what they want from me. I think it's just... I've finished with the fetch. Oh, I see. There's another one. I missed this one here. There's another bracket first, so it should actually be like this. Okay, that should be fine. Right. So next thing we're going to do, as you can see, Copilot's figured it out already. We're going to turn the data. We're going to turn the response into JSON. So we just store that in a variable called data. And then last thing you want to do is use this set statements function here from useState and just pass the data into that. And what we could do, in fact, what we could do is we could just like, should we just like console.log let's just log out the data. Since we're in the front end, in fact, I kind of like to do it like this. In fact, another really a cool way you can do it is like put it in an object like this, and then you've got the if you have like the same field in an object, it will like have the name and it'll have the value. So it'll be a really nice way to like see it logged out like that. So we'll see that in a minute in the console. And here for like if there's an error, we could just do some sort of like console error. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, now we actually need to call this, and we want to call this like each time we come into each time we load this page. So for that we can use something called use effect, and we can do that, and yeah, exactly that. So with use effect, it takes 2 arguments as well. This second argument here is the dependencies. So it's like things to watch, and then it will call it again based on if that thing in the dependency array changed. But if you just have it like an empty array, then it will just call it on the first time everything mounts. All right, so I reckon that will work if we open up the console. So one thing you can do on a Mac is if you just hold a function and then you hit F12, it will open up the console, and nothing is logged here, and there's a lot of errors. No cause policy. Okay, what's that? Cross origin. I can't remember what cause stands for, but there is I think the way to solve this, there's a middleware we can use. Not utils. We need to jump into the backend quickly, and we need to install something called just cause. And then there we go. And we need to import that. Let's import cause from cause. And then so once you've imported cause, then I think it's just app.use cause. Is it like that? App.use. You call it, I think. Think that should be okay now. If we just give this a refresh. Okay, good. Okay, that solved the problem. Hang on. What does cause stand for? Cross-origin resource sharing. Okay. So yeah, it's just like another middleware thing that we need. Just like earlier we had where we couldn't use the JSON, so we needed to do that here. All right, so as you can see, now we have, where's it gone? Here it is. Now we have data, and there are 2 items in data, and these are our statements, Johnny and Johnny2. So we have everything we need, and we have inside each item, we have actor, we have verb, and we have object. So now what we can do is we can loop through this array, and we can display that information in our list item. So let's do that. Remember, we now have that in statements. So let's do it like this. We're going to go statement. Yeah, okay, good. We're going to make a map function. In fact, wait. We'll do types later, but I think we also will need index. So yeah, we're going to get the statement. We're going to loop through it. And we also need the index, and the reason is, okay, that looks good. Statement, I mean, not quite. This is going to be actor, and this is going to be verb, and this is going to be object, and they're actually all going to be paragraph elements. So we want them all like side by side. We want like Johnny completed module 1 in a list. So let's do some more. Let me get rid of this one. Let's do some, what can we call this? List item container. Explore list item container style div. Let's give it a display flex, and let's use that instead of this. In fact, wait, no, list item container. This is just a list item. Maybe I shouldn't have called it list item container. I should just call it list item, because it's basically just a list item, isn't it? It's the whole list item being... Okay, so have we imported that? Yep, list item. Let me see, what have I done wrong here? There's something missing. Let's see. That is that. This one is this. No, okay, we're missing one. We're missing a bracket, I think. Yeah, okay. Okay, and if you look here, this error that we have, property actor does not exist on type never. This will actually be crashing the UI. Yeah, so I just open the console. Yeah, there's clearly like a problem with the types here. So what we need to do is we actually need to, it's complaining that there's no type for statement here. So we need to create an interface. And for this, I actually like to have all of my types and interfaces in a different file. So I'm just going to create a different file called, let's say, like, I don't need to say statements page, I'll just say statements.types.ts, something like that. And then we can actually like export an interface from here. Interface called, we just need to define like what a statement will look like. Like, as we know, we have an actor, which is an object, and inside that object, yes, we have like name string, for example, and then we have a verb, which not an action, but it's an ID string, and then here we have an object. So this is what it should look like at the moment. The way that we've got it defined is, that's how it looks. So we just need to use this type here. So let's take that and we're going to tell TypeScript that it's this item here. This is a statement. So let's import that. The problem here is now we will be actually be able to get that name field from the object, and here we'll be able to get ID, and here we'll be able to get ID. So that should be working now, and it is. Good. What's this? I think I have some kind of... How is this here? I've done something. Is it this one? I don't think it is that one. Maybe it's that one. Okay, it's gone. Okay, good. I just had like a random semicolon there. All right, so this obviously looks a mess, but at least we can see like the right stuff is coming out, and there's no errors in the console anymore. That's good. So yeah, first thing we want to do is obviously we want like this to appear underneath, and we want some spaces in between the things. So let's style it. So let's get rid of the types. Let's look at list item. First of all, flex direction column. There we go. That's got it all on different like in a column. Oh no, wait, that's not right. What's happened here? List item. Oh yeah, there's going to be different list items. Okay, I'm actually doing this in the wrong thing. This should be in this one instead. Yeah, okay, that's better. Okay, and we want to space out each thing. So let's say in the list item, we want a gap of, let's just do 2 rem again. Space them out a little bit. What else? For each list item, I suppose we could have a border of like, no, what's that? 1px solid white, and let's give a gap between each list item of like, I don't know, maybe something like 0.5 rem. Just a small gap. Also, we should probably have like a style component for each one of these as well. So let's create that now. What can we call that? List item segment? I don't know. It's probably a really bad name, but let's go with that. List item section. Okay, cool. Let's go for list item section, and that is a paragraph tag. Let's remove the margin and the padding, and let's use that instead of this p tag here. In fact, we could do what we did earlier and just highlight one of them, and then go Command D and just keep pressing it, and then Command V, and it just puts all of them in. And import that. See how that looks. Okay, that will actually need some padding. Maybe 0.5 rem as well. Oh, that needs to go in string like that. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, that looks fine. Yeah. All right. So yeah, this is the kind of thing we've been looking for. Oh, actually, one more thing we should have is we should say, if you remember on the database now, we have this created at part here, so we could actually add that as well. We can actually pull that out as well, but that will mean these will all need to go in one section, and then that will need to go in its own section. So what could we call this? Because for example, like if we just had another one and it's called created at, which should be there. Oh, okay, we haven't added this to our types. Go to the types, and that is actually just, can I say date string? I think you just say date. No, I think it should be just string. Something like that. If we look in the UI, you know, it's just there. So we want it over here, like similar to what we did where we separated these two. We do a similar thing now. So I'm not even sure I want to name these. I think I'm just gonna wrap them all in some random div. Actually, I think I will need to name it though. Let's have a look first. If we just create like a div here as well, and then we just move that one up into there. Like for list item, if I now say justify content space between, how will that look? Terrible. Because okay, I'm gonna go for list item section container, even though that's maybe a little bit silly, bit of a silly name, but export const list item section container. Because that will also need display flex. Okay, so if we have this, if we give this display flex and then we use this one instead for here and import that, that's better. Good. Yeah, that's basically what we want. So there's a lot of improvements we can make to this, but we'll do this in the next section because we should commit what we've got so far. But yeah, there's definitely like things we can improve here. But for now, just so you can see, you know, that's how we've fetched the data, and that's how we're getting it on the page. So see you in the next section. Okay, so that looks fine for now. Realistically, actually, like with the way we've been sending these, if we go to our create statement one here, the way we've been sending this, yeah, it will have like an ID, the verb, but actually it'll probably also have something like display, and it'll be something more like completed. You'll have this option as well. So, and this one will probably have something like name, module 1. So let's send this instead. If we send that, check that's gone into the database. Oh, there's no refresh button anymore. Maybe if I just click here. Okay, so as you can see, this latest entry here, we've got the actor has got a name, and they've got in the verb object, they've also got ID, but they've got like this display field as well. We should access this one, and also for object, we should access the name instead, just so, you know, to make it look like a little nicer in the UI. So let's say here, we want, what was it called? Display. And we want, here we want name. We're gonna have to add this to our types. So again, these are just strings, display and name. And then what we can do is we could say like, okay, look for display, and if it's not there, then you can give us the ID instead. And then also maybe if that's not there as well, you could give us just unknown verb, something like that. And then we could do like a similar thing here as well. We could say look for the name, and if it's not there, then give us the ID, and if none of those are there, then just give us like an unknown object. And that way, if we look here, we still have all of, there's still things being rendered here, but because in our latest one that we added, we have a display verb and we have an object name, it's found it. Also, another thing is, notice that the latest entry is at the bottom. We don't really want to do this. The way we can change this is before we map through this, we could actually throw in like a reverse method onto this array. But the best way to do that is actually, first of all, to use a slice. Just because, it's about immutability. You want to create like a new version of the array first. You don't want to actually like change the existing array. Then let's add a reverse, and then let's map through, and that should reverse everything. So now we have the latest one at the top. Good. And one more thing is this date string. It doesn't look, it doesn't look very like user friendly. So there's actually a really cool package we can use for this. We'll have to cd into client to install this, and let's go npm I date I think it's fns, I think so. Yeah, this is a really nice package to use. We can import something with this package. We can import something called format. I think it's format distance to now. Yeah. And then I think we just wrap the date. Let me try and remember how to do this. So we call the function, and then we add in like a new date, and then we can say statement dot created at get that field. Yeah, that should work, right? New date. Yeah, let's have a look. What does it look like? Okay, there we go. Yeah. Oh, and then also there's an extra thing you can do is you can have like a suffix, like you can have like a go. So there's another, I think it's like another parameter is you just go add suffix true, like that. And now it says 5 minutes ago, about 3 hours ago, blah blah. Cool. So that's looking much nicer. Of course, you can like change all the styles later, make everything look different, like however you want it to look. Just for now, this is just like a very basic form of an LRS. Okay, I think that's fine for now. You could create like util function, like I don't know, like a get verb function, create it in like a utils folder elsewhere, and then use that here. Might be nicer. But yeah, again, those are just like improvements we can make some of the time. Okay, and so before we move on to the last section, let's just push what we have done there. Let's say, what do we do? Get all statements in client side, something like that, and commit and push that. I'm actually going to end this tutorial here. The reason is this was just supposed to be like a quick way for you to get like a mini LRS up and running, something you can play with. So the rest is up. The next part is up to you. Remember, you have this learners page, so you could make like a similar list to this, but for the learners. And remember, you can get that information from the XAPI statement. You could click on one of these items, and that could like open up a modal, and you could see like the whole of the XAPI statement in that modal. That would be useful. You could even like put in some different ways of querying this data. So you could have like filter by all the statements that have completed verb, and then you'd only see those statements in here, or just filter by a particular user or when it was made. So there's lots of things you can add to this. I just wanted to get like I just wanted this tutorial just to be like a starting point. Also, I think I mentioned earlier, I have made another mini LRS, which is on my GitHub. So I'll leave the link in the description of this video for that if you want to have a look at that as well. You can actually sign in as a user on that one. I used Redux for the state management, so you can have your own profile, and it also has like a learners page and a statements page as well, and the modals and everything else I just mentioned. So yeah, the next part is up to you. Also, if there is enough demand for it as well, I could do a part 2 of this tutorial. So if you want to see a part 2, if you want to see me like continue with this project, then yeah, leave a comment. Leave me a comment on the video, and yeah, if there's enough demand, then I could just do like a part 2. So yeah, that's all from me today. I hope this was useful. It's always nice to just build like a much smaller version of like a big industry product, because like industry standard LRS could have a whole bunch of other stuff. You could have like visualizations of the data. You could have learners' journeys and all sorts of things. So this is just like a very small version of what it could be. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and maybe see you in the next tutorial. Thanks.